Well, did you get well rested sitting down? Because it's your turn again. All right, I'm going to turn the time back over to Wiley. He told me not to introduce him or to say anything about any of his hobbies, so I'm just going to turn it over to Wiley.
Thank you.
I was tempted.
Thanks, Paul. I appreciate that. I knew if Paul said something, it would be something mean, so I just asked him to not say anything. Here I am in my usual role from December through March, and that is the chief fundraiser of the Twin Falls School District. I'm here today really with three purposes in mind. One is to give you information about the upcoming supplemental levy election. It will take place on Tuesday, March 10th. It's a continuation of the 2013 supplemental levy. So I'm here to inform you. I'm here to encourage you to vote. I won't tell you how to vote. You'll probably guess what I'm thinking as far as how you ought to vote, but I won't tell you how to vote. That's your job. But lastly, got some people here that can answer questions for you. We want to be able to answer any questions you have with regard to this very important event that's coming up in our community. We have a budget advisory committee in the Twin Falls School District. If not the most important committee, it's certainly one of the most important committees that we have in our school district. David Cooper serves on that committee. He's here today. Can certainly help with the questions you may have. Travis Klost, one of the members of our club, is also a member of the Budget Advisory Committee. But as you can see, it's made up from a wide range of participants. We have parents, students, the president of Canyon Ridge High School, President Kasdorf, Porter Kasdorf is also a member of this committee. Business members, retirees, staff members, we even have a board member who's involved. So this group will convene at the request of the school board, and they'll tackle projects or issues as the board asked them to. And back in October, they were asked to review the budget in the Twin Falls School District, and then take a look at the needs within our school district as well, and then advise the school board as to what we should do with the supplemental levy. Should we ask for more? Should we ask for less? Should we ask for the same? Should we discontinue it? And they looked at this thing over a series of meetings. They met many times, and then in December, they recommended to the school board to continue the supplemental levy that's on the books. It's a $9 million supplemental levy that is over 2 years, so it's $4.5 million each of the next 2 years. And again, it's a continuation of the same levy that our community passed back in 2013. When you look at per pupil spending in the Twin Falls School District, we don't drive a Cadillac. We don't ask for a Cadillac. We drive a very reliable Ford. And as you can see, our per pupil expenditures have dropped in the last few years. They're starting to come back up as our economy recovers. But the Twin Falls School District, in 2009-10, just as we were dropping into the Great Recession, we spent about $5,400 per student. That dropped down to below $5,000 as we were working our way through the recession, like everyone else. And this last year, the state has picked the funding back up, but we still have not recovered ourselves to the point where we were back in 2009-10. And just for your information, there's a little box there that shows you that 5255 is approximately $4.20 per hour per student. And it covers everything within the Twin Falls School District. These are two really important slides. As the members of this club know, the Twin Falls School District is gaining students. Our community is growing, really leaps and bounds. We're one of the fastest growing school districts in Idaho. We've gained, just in the last 4 years, 1,200 students. That's enough to fill up 2 elementary schools if they were all elementary students. You can also see that in 2009, the state support, the money we get from our legislature, peaked. And then as we went into the Great Recession, we dropped off into a canyon. The canyon has been filled with various things. The first couple of years, we got ARA funds, money from the great bailout that some of you will remember, probably all of us will remember. Beginning in 2011, our community stepped up. We asked for a supplemental levy, and our Twin Falls community agreed and helped us with a supplemental levy. In 2013, again, we asked the community for a supplemental levy, and they helped us. And here we are back in 2015 again. When you compare, it's really kind of tough to determine, 52, 53, 5,400, where does that stack up nationally? Where does it stack up in Idaho? National average is more than twice the amount that we spend per student. Idaho's average is about 900 more than what we spend per student. So as I mentioned before, we're not asking to drive a Cadillac. We're not going to meet all the needs that we've identified within our committee and within the school board, but we will get by, and we will do the good things that we've been doing over the last few years as we've worked our way through this recession. The $9 million that we're requesting will not cover all and restore us to levels pre-Great Recession. It will allow the district to maintain current operating levels, however. In 2011, our community supported a $7.5 million levy over 2 years. The Budget Advisory Committee recommended, they saw that our carryover was depleting too rapidly. They recommended a $9 million levy in 2013. And that passed with a greater majority than the one in 2011. So our community, again, as they have, and it no longer surprises me how supportive our community is. But they stepped up and actually voted with a greater percentage in 2013 for more money than they did in 2011. And here we are in 2015. The Budget Advisory Committee has recommended that we continue the supplemental levy, not add to it, not subtract from it, but keep it the same. If this levy passes, the old levy will roll off the books on June 30th. The new levy will take over on July 1st and will last for 2 years. A lot of people ask me this question: didn't Governor Otter propose an increased funding for public education? The answer is yes, he did, and we're grateful for that. It's a 7.4% increase that he recommended. The state superintendent of public instruction recommended a 6.4% increase. A couple things to remember, though, and I've got them listed here on the side. The governor's proposal is just that, a proposal. The legislature sets the budget, and it'll be their responsibility to do so. We get 3% of any new money. So let's take Governor Otter's proposal. He's presented a proposal that would provide $20 million in operational funds for our district. That would be new money to our district. We get 3% of that because we have 3% of the students in the Twin Falls School District statewide. So of all the students in Idaho, we have 3% of them, 9,000 roughly. $20 million would come out to $600,000 for our district, which again, we're grateful for, but $600,000 does not replace $4.5 million. That's the math. There also may be strings attached or targeted purposes for the money that we get. For instance, there's talk of raising teacher pay. We can't get that money from the state that's earmarked for that and use it for something else. It would have to go to the career ladder if the career ladder is formulated and they vote upon it. And it may not be ongoing. Who's to say we're not going to go into a double-dip recession? And if we do, we better be ready for it. We better be nimble and ready to move if that happens. And we have been scraping by in some areas. Technology, our average age of our computers is 8 years old. That's a dinosaur. Our textbooks, we have been paying particular attention to our younger students. We have replaced math and reading textbooks in elementary school, but we've done virtually nothing in our secondary schools. We're getting by. We're making do with what we have. The carryover, as I mentioned, that's kind of our savings account. The state legislature has a carryover. It's called PSEF. It's a savings account to help us. Thank goodness we had one when we went into the recession. That helped a great deal. Twin Falls School District has one too. In 2008, it was $3.2 million, which is a lot of money for anybody in this room, but that's about 1 month's operating expenses for the Twin Falls School District. We have about a $46 million budget. By 2012, we used some of that, as many have, dipped into our savings, and we dropped to 1.7. We're projecting our carryover to be about 1.2 by the end of this year. So hopefully, with the help of a supplemental levy plus increased funding from the state legislature, we can start seeing this go back the other way and build back up. We need to have a carryover. One of the reasons why we have to have a carryover, there are a few, but probably the most important one, is that we get our money from the state as reimbursements, and we get it over 4 times quarterly throughout the year. When we get to one of the periods of time where we haven't quite received our money from the state, and we owe people their paychecks, we don't want to borrow money to have to pay people their paychecks. We want to have money ready to go so we can do that without spending money on interest. We've never had to do that, and we don't want to start doing that. So the $9 million supplemental levy, it's over 2 years. It goes to the cost of maintaining and operating schools. Some people have asked me, we passed a $73.8 million levy last year. What do you need more money for? You'll remember that was a bond levy. It was for buildings. We can't use money that people voted for school buildings for some other purpose. That would be illegal. This amount does not cover all of our identified needs, and it's roughly about 10% of our budget. So keep that figure in your mind, 10%, 4.5 million equals about 10% of our budget. Other districts have come to rely on supplemental levies. Of the 115 school districts in Idaho, 95 of them currently have supplemental levies. Somebody asked me the other day, what about the ones who doesn't have a supplemental levy these days? And I said, Three Creek does not have a supplemental levy. And they have added like 33% new students to their rolls in the last year or two. They added one, taking it from 3 to 4 students. So some of the districts are very tiny districts, and it's unaffordable to go for supplemental levies within those communities. But we've come to call this a survival levy, because it's supplemental leads you to believe that it's for extras, or it's additional. It really truly is a survival levy. And when comparing our supplemental levy rates with other districts, the ones going across the bottom are the larger districts in Idaho, also a couple of the ones that are around us, Minidoka, Cassia, Jerome. You see the Twin Falls is a little right of center. We're a little lower when compared to these, the larger school districts in Idaho and the ones that are around us. The projected property tax effect, again, it's a continuation, so taxes won't go up. We are growing in our community. We had a report from Cliff Bar the other day. Our tax base is expanding, so more folks are involved in helping pay the tax. So hopefully that will really give some of the burden away from some of our property owners as well. Without the levy, as I mentioned, it's 10%. We need to cut 10% of our budget. I'm not going to go through all these mean things because it depresses me, but I think you could, think of a school and take away 10%. When we had to do this at the beginning of the Great Recession, we took away days. We did furlough days. Everybody got nicked. We didn't want to lose any of our employees, and we didn't want to lose any programs. So we all took some of the burden. That would be probably the way we would go if we had to make these cuts again. But I'm just one person who would be speaking within a group of people that would make these decisions. As I mentioned, the election is on March 10th. You can begin voting early on February 23rd if you like. You can mail in a ballot. You can have it sent to you. You can mail it in. You can go to Twin Falls County West, the old hospital, and vote early. I think it's on the first floor. If you don't know where your polling place is, you can go to that website and find out where your polling place is, but it's your regular polling place, those of you who haven't moved recently. So with that, again, as I mentioned, Travis is here, David is here, I'm here, Eva's here. We're ready to answer any questions you have about the supplemental levy, or time permitting. We've got about 8 minutes. Questions about anything else in the district? Yes? Jim?
What input did the superintendents of those 84 supplemental survival levies have to the state school superintendent's budget? Did you have input to that?
We didn't, and I was on the transition team for the new superintendent. I'm very disappointed. We had 3 meetings, and I met with her a 4th time. I went up to talk to her. She didn't recognize me. We spent our time on their organizational chart, a mission statement, and a vision statement. No input onto the budget at all. My recommendation would have been, you know, there's a 5-year plan to implement a career ladder system where teachers are paid more and there's more accountability involved. I would have challenged the legislature to step up and fund it in 4 years instead of 5, along with additional operational funding. But unresponsive has been the way I would relate to the state superintendent and superintendents and others trying to give her input.
What?
Yes. Rich?
How many people voted in the last election, still was in 2013? How many people voted? And does this take a majority or a simple majority?
It takes a 50% plus 1, so a simple majority. Sadly, the last 2 supplemental elections, about 10% of the people who could vote, voted. And I've said this before, maybe you've heard me say it. I've been asked, does that disappoint you as a superintendent? I said, no, it disappoints me as an American. Jill, and then Chris.
Why do they have elections in such odd months? I mean, would it make sense to combine it with the other elections? It seems like traditionally in the school, that the elections are always in some odd month.
Yeah, we always have ours in March. There has been an election consolidation law recently passed where there are 4 election dates. It used to be you could have the election dates pretty much any time as far as school levies, but it has been now confined to 4 dates. We use the March date because that's our budgeting time. We need to know if we're going to be making 10% cuts. We have to know that in March in order to make those things happen to start school in September. So that's the main reason for us. But there are 4 dates: March, May, of course, the regular primary, November, and then I think August is the other one. Yes. Oh no, Chris was first. Sorry.
Wiley, the district has expanded the school year days, right? Kids are going to school more days out of the year now than they did a couple of years ago.
Yes, we've recovered the furlough days that we had cut from the school.
So those days a few years ago, because of the furlough, not some other federal or state laws that we had to expand.
Correct. And the supplemental levy in part has helped us add those days back.
Well, this controversy is going on about cutting the internet schools, putting it back on the local districts. Is that
Well, we've been working on this. In fact, our IT director, Brett Keller, actually filled out the E-rate forms last year for this year. Back then I said, what are you doing that for? I mean, it's a statewide contract. Why in the world? He goes, well, you know, something might happen. Well, something happened. And he's going to be the superintendent of schools now, not me. But no, so we might recover some money from that. I don't know, we're looking into it. But he's Johnny on the spot. We've already been talking to ENA, which is the group that put this internet into place throughout the state. They were the ones that had the contract. Part of that contract was given to Quest without bidding and causing the problems. But we've been real happy with ENA. They've worked well with us. We're negotiating with them. It's probably going to cost more money because we're breaking away from the state contract. It's my hope that as we move forward, we're piecing this together for July. We should be fine in the Twin Falls School District. It should be seamless. That's our goal. But moving forward, I'm hopeful the state can pull back together and we can go with that purchasing power that all the districts have when we work together. But we'll see. Yes?
Wiley, with the new schools that'll be coming online in the next couple of years, how's that going to impact the financial situation?
Well, some of you remember that we opened Canyon Ridge just as we were dropping into the canyon, and so we've had practice in opening new schools in tough times. You'll remember that when we opened Canyon Ridge, we didn't open the school and staff it with all new people. We moved folks. We'll be doing the same. We're moving from 7 very tightly packed elementary schools to 9 elementary schools. And so we've got a plan in place. We're kind of stair-stepping toward that too. We're sort of building our administrative pool, so we're ready to move administrators when we open a middle school. The real challenge, I think, the finances, we're growing. The numbers of students that we're adding will help us finance the cost. So we're going to be fine cost-wise. The biggest challenge, I think, is going to be moving school zones. Somebody asked me the other day, you mean you're moving all the school zones? Yeah. We're moving from 7 to 9. And middle schools from 2 to 3. So all the school zones will be affected. And so that's going to be some real key work that we need to do. As we usually do, we'll be going with the shared leadership approach. We'll have lots of people involved. We'll have many voices. And we'll work our way toward, the very best decision we can come to as far as where kids are going to go in these new schools and in our well-established older schools. Jim?
How much longer are we going to continue to do something else until we address the issue as a taxpayer?
Well, and I might turn that over to David or Travis, because that's what they're wrestling with. Then, as 2 years go by.
You're going to do a 6-year sprint now.
Right.
And it comes on the tax bill, so
Yep.
it smells like a tax, it looks like a tax,
Oh, yeah.
it acts like a tax.
Yeah, and make no mistake about it, if we vote no, your taxes will go down. I mean, that's a no-brainer, but.
$5,000 a student, and we're half of the national average. That tells me we're not very high up the food chain.
Right, and I just spent 2 days with our legislators. And that was with our school board members. They heard a lot about this. The more positive news is that lots of talk about putting money toward education. So we're hopeful that can build back up where we don't need to have a supplemental levy. We never had a supplemental levy in Twin Falls before the big recession. So, but I don't know, David, do you want to address that one as far as what the committee has talked about?
Well, I would say this committee, first of all, very mindful, very appreciative of the support this community has given to schools in recent years, especially last year. So that just shows such a tremendous investment in our schools. Being mindful of that, we want very careful discussion. There's a lot of need for articulating to reduce 5 million more is credit to us. Finance director of the district this is a very continuous point. 1 year after such a large growth, we need to ask the we're staying at the right level. The level we have in these last few years, we want to stay at that level. And the answer to that question is, really, that's a question that needs to be answered going forward from the state, because supplemental levies in perpetuity going forward are onerous and they're a burden for a lot of taxpayers, especially property taxpayers. In our last discussion, the vision really is that those will come off, because that's really what the goal is. Not have to have anyone else supplemental levies.
Thank you, David. It's 1:01. We will stay here afterward. If you have other questions come up, and we'll answer. Thank you.